It looked like the kind of crisis the world had already started to get used to. More threats, more warnings, more ships moving through one of the most dangerous choke points on Earth, while diplomats claimed they still had time to talk. But then the Strait of Hormuz lit up again, and the message was unmistakable. This is still a live war zone, and the next phase may already be underway. For weeks, the world has watched the same narrow corridor become a pressure point for oil markets, naval forces, and global politics. Almost a fifth of the world's energy exports normally pass through this waterway, which means any shock here is never just regional. It hits shipping costs, insurance rates, oil prices, and the strategic calculations of Washington, Tehran, and every country that depends on Gulf energy. That is why every missile launch, every naval warning, and every strike near the strait matters far beyond Iran's coastline. And now, once again, the United States has hit Iranian targets in the area. Recent reporting says U.S. aircraft dropped 5,000-pound bunker-buster bombs on hardened Iranian missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz, part of a broader effort to stop Iran from threatening commercial shipping and to keep the waterway open. The target was not just metal and concrete. The target was Iran's ability to control fear, to turn a narrow sea lane into a political weapon, and to make the entire world feel the consequences of one country's strategic leverage. That is what makes this situation so explosive. The Strait of Hormuz is not some distant battlefront. It is one of the world's most critical maritime arteries, a place where tankers, warships, drones, mines, and missiles can all collide in seconds. If the strait slows down, the entire energy system feels it. If ships are delayed, prices react. If a naval incident escalates, global markets start pricing in panic before the first official statement even arrives. And the latest round of strikes suggests the U.S. is no longer treating this as a symbolic confrontation. This is hard power, massive ordnance, precision attacks, messaging through force. The purpose is obvious: deny Iran the ability to choke international shipping, protect commercial routes, and show that any move to control the strait will be answered immediately. But force creates its own momentum, and every strike invites a reaction. Iran understands that better than most. The regime has spent years turning the Strait of Hormuz into one of its greatest strategic bargaining chips. When Tehran wants leverage, it uses ambiguity. It threatens disruption without fully closing the waterway. It signals escalation without always crossing the point of no return. That gives Iran room to pressure its enemies while avoiding total isolation. But if those calculations start to fail, the entire region becomes more dangerous very fast. Recent reports suggest Iran has been trying to assert control over the strait through coordinated vessel passage rules and naval oversight, while also clashing with U.S. efforts to keep the route open. At the same time, Iran has been accused of opening fire on commercial ships, adding another layer of tension to an already fragile situation. Whether these incidents are meant as warnings, retaliation, or bargaining tactics, the outcome is the same. Uncertainty rises, and the world watches the next move like it is a countdown. That is why the current standoff cannot be separated from the broader U.S.-Iran conflict. This is not only about one stretch of water. It is about sanctions, military pressure, nuclear talks, regional proxy forces, and the struggle to decide who sets the rules in the Gulf. Every strike near Hormuz changes the atmosphere of negotiations. Every retaliation claim makes compromise harder. Every statement from Washington or Tehran is now read not as diplomacy, but as preparation for the next phase. And the military logic is getting more serious. U.S. Reports describe bunker-buster strikes on hardened Iranian missile sites, while other accounts say Iranian assets and boats have been hit or destroyed in operations tied to the protection of shipping routes. That means the conflict is no longer limited to warnings at sea. It has become a contest over infrastructure, access, and deterrence. In practical terms, each side is trying to prove it can still act, still absorb pressure, and still prevent the other side from controlling the narrative. But the real danger is that both sides may be convincing themselves they can manage escalation better than the other. That is when accidents become disasters. A ship misreads a signal. A drone is mistaken for a missile. A patrol boat gets too close. A strike lands where it was never supposed to land. In a place like Hormuz, the margin for error is tiny, and the consequences are global. This is why the latest diplomatic signals matter so much. Reports say talks are still moving forward, with proposals involving shipping access, mine clearance, and reduced pressure in exchange for concessions on Iran's nuclear program. That means there is still a narrow corridor between war and stabilization, but that corridor is as fragile as the one ships sail through every day. One bad decision could close both. For the United States, the stakes are obvious. Washington wants to stop Iran from using the strait as leverage, protect international shipping, reassure allies, and avoid looking weak in front of both the region and the world. For Iran, the stakes are just as clear. Tehran wants sanctions relief, strategic breathing room, and proof that it cannot be bullied into giving up its regional power position. Neither side wants to blink first, and that is exactly what makes the situation so unstable. And then there is the global audience, which is really the hidden third player in this crisis. Oil traders, shipping companies, insurers, defense planners, and foreign governments are all watching for one question. Is this a temporary flare-up, or the beginning of a more serious confrontation over the world's most important choke point? That answer will shape prices, alliances, and military deployments long after the headlines move on. What makes this moment so powerful is that it feels familiar and new at the same time. Familiar because the Strait of Hormuz has always been a pressure point. New because the level of military action now includes deep strikes, bunker-buster bombs, contested vessel movements, and direct claims of attacks on commercial shipping. This is not just a show of force, it is a warning that the line between deterrence and open confrontation is getting thinner. So what happens next? If talks survive, there may be a narrow deal to stabilize shipping and pause the most dangerous moves. If they fail, the U.S. and Iran could move deeper into a cycle of strike and counterstrike that drags the entire Gulf into a broader crisis. Either way, the Strait of Hormuz is no longer just a shipping lane. It is a pressure valve for the global order. And that is the real story here, not just that the U.S. bombed Iran again near Hormuz, not just that Iran is pushing back, but that the world is watching a strategic choke point where one mistake could reshape energy markets, regional security, and the balance of power in the Middle East. The question now is not whether the tension is real. The question is how long the world can keep pretending it is under control, because in the Strait of Hormuz, control is always temporary, leverage is always contested, and peace, if it comes at all, usually arrives only after the world has already felt the cost of failure. In the end, the Strait of Hormuz is more than a stretch of water. It is a test of power, patience, and limits, and every move made there sends shockwaves far beyond the Gulf. What happens next will tell us whether this crisis is heading toward control, collapse, or something far more dangerous. Now I want to hear your view. Is this a calculated warning, a dangerous escalation, or the beginning of a much bigger confrontation? Share your opinion in the comments and keep the discussion respectful and neutral. If you like this style of fast, sharp, deeply researched global news, subscribe to Word Alarm and turn on notifications so you don't miss the hottest world events every day.